Have you ever woken up one day and realized you've been living someone else's story, that without even noticing, you became the background character in a movie where you were supposed to be the lead? You weren't lazy. You weren't weak. You were just misled. From a young age, the world told you that to be a good man, you needed to be nice, agreeable, selfless, that if you just loved her hard enough, prioritized her happiness, avoided conflict, and did everything right, you'd be appreciated, respected, loved, that the gold medal of being a good guy was unconditional affection and a stable relationship. But let's be honest, how has that worked out for you? If you're here, there's a part of you, maybe quiet, maybe roaring, that knows the truth. That kind of man, the one who bends backward for everyone but himself, doesn't get respect. He gets overlooked. He gets taken for granted. He becomes invisible. Because the hard truth is this: society lied to you. They handed you a script designed to keep you small, submissive, and emotionally dependent on external approval, especially from women. They trained you to chase validation instead of purpose. And now, you're left wondering why she pulled away, why your kindness wasn't enough, why you did everything right but still lost. The answer is painful, but it's liberating. You've been trying to be loved in a world that only respects strength. And I don't mean the kind of strength that screams or dominates. I mean the quiet, unshakable strength of a man who owns his value and lives by his code. The kind of man who doesn't need to convince anyone of his worth, because his actions, his presence, and his self-respect speak for him. A man like that doesn't need to break anyone else's ego. His very existence disrupts the ego of others, because he refuses to play by their rules. So today, I'm going to give you the truth no one else will. Not to turn you into someone manipulative, not to feed bitterness or revenge, but to rebuild you from the ground up. Because this isn't just about women. It's about reclaiming your power in every room you walk into. It's about becoming the kind of man who doesn't chase, he attracts. The kind who doesn't seek validation, he defines it. The kind who doesn't need to be chosen, because he chooses himself. Stay here, I'll walk you through 7 principles, not tactics, but truths that will radically shift the way you see yourself, the way women respond to you, and the way you command your life. You'll learn how to stop being ruled by emotions, how to master silence, how to build a life so magnetic that it pulls others in effortlessly. And yes, how to break her ego, but more importantly, how to break free from yours. This is your wake-up call. You don't need permission to rise. You need a roadmap, and that's exactly what you're going to get. Stay with me, because every second from this point forward is a step closer to becoming the man you were always meant to be. Number 1, break free from the illusion of ego. There is a moment in every man's life when he realizes that the chains holding him back were never locked by someone else. They were forged by his own ego, quiet, invisible, but deeply rooted. And until he breaks those chains, he will remain a prisoner of his own mind. You see, we're often taught to believe that the real battle lies outside of us, in the woman who tests us, the world that judges us, the standards we're expected to meet. But the truth is harsher and far more liberating. The problem is not her ego, it's yours, not the loud, prideful kind, but the fragile ego that begs for approval, that fears rejection, that desperately needs to prove its worth, to feel alive. Your ego is the part of you that panics when she pulls away. It's the voice that screams, "Why didn't she text back? It's the need to show her that you're enough, to impress her, to be seen, to be chosen. But here's the paradox. The more you need to be chosen, the more powerless you become. The more you try to control how she sees you, the more you lose control of yourself. This is not confidence. This is captivity. And if you want to become the kind of man who cannot be manipulated, you must first confront the part of you that's constantly looking outward for validation. Let go of the need to prove yourself. Let go of the need to be right, to be admired, to be acknowledged. True strength doesn't announce itself. It doesn't demand to be seen. It simply is. When you're no longer ruled by the impulse to impress, you become free. Free to walk away when respect is absent. Free to speak your truth without needing agreement. Free to pursue your mission without shrinking for anyone's comfort. This kind of detachment is not indifference. It's discipline. The Stoics knew this well. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Ambition means tying your well-being to what other people say or do. Sanity means tying it to your own actions. Your ego wants to be admired, but your soul wants to be free. And every time you choose peace over performance, self-respect over validation, you step closer to becoming the man you were born to be." Think about how much of your life has been spent performing, shaping your personality, your tone, your opinions, to fit someone else's expectations. Think about how often you've censored your truth just to be liked, or tolerated disrespect because you feared being alone. That isn't self-love. That's ego addiction, and the withdrawal is brutal. But on the other side of it is something rare and sacred: sovereignty. When you break free from your ego, you stop chasing ghosts. You no longer need to win arguments or seek revenge. You no longer crumble when someone disapproves of you. You operate from a deeper center. You build your life from the inside out. And that's when something incredible happens. You become untouchable. Not because you're cold, but because you're no longer ruled by your fears. You're no longer chasing affection. You are love. You're no longer waiting for her to validate you. You already know your worth. Women, people, the world will all test you. But when your ego no longer demands to be fed, those tests lose their power. Jealousy can't shake you because you're grounded. Insecurity can't control you because you're anchored. You don't fall into games because you're too focused on your purpose. You become still in the face of chaos, calm in the face of provocation, clear in the face of confusion. That is what Stoicism teaches us: not to escape emotion, but to master it; not to dominate others, but to command ourselves. So what does this look like in real life? It means you stop obsessing over who she's texting. You stop checking her social media like your peace depends on it. You stop overthinking every word you say around her. Instead, you focus on your body, your mind, your mission. You read, you lift, you build, you grow. Not for her attention, but for your expansion. And ironically, the less you try to earn her admiration, the more magnetic you become. Because she doesn't want a man who needs her approval. She wants a man who doesn't need it. Now let me be clear. Breaking your ego doesn't mean becoming passive. It means becoming unshakable. It means setting standards, not expectations. Leading with clarity, not control. Walking away from what insults your soul without flinching. The ego screams, "Convince her." The soul whispers, "Remember who you are." And the moment you listen to that whisper, everything changes. You rise above petty games. You stop explaining yourself to those who don't deserve your energy. You don't chase. You attract. You don't compete. You align. and your life begins to reflect your inner peace, quiet, steady, and powerful. The man who breaks his ego doesn't lose himself. He finds himself, because beneath the need to prove, there is a man who is already enough. And when that man shows up, he doesn't ask for respect, he commands it. Not with noise, but with presence. Not with bravado, but with integrity. Not with manipulation, but with unshakable self-respect. This is the man who wins, not just in love, but in life. The one who doesn't need to dominate because he's already in control. The one who doesn't fear loss because he's already whole. The one who doesn't react because he's already free. And this man lives by a different code. So if you're ready, truly ready to break her ego, don't start with her. Start with you. Tear down the illusions. Strip away the fear. Let go of the mask and meet the version of yourself that no longer needs to prove anything to anyone. That man, he's not just powerful. He's unstoppable. Number 2, speak boldly with authentic truth. There's a quiet kind of pain that lives in the heart of a man who's never allowed himself to be fully seen. It's the ache of holding your tongue when your soul wants to speak. The discomfort of nodding along when every fiber of your being screams disagreement. The loneliness of playing a role so often that you forget what your real voice sounds like. Too many men live this way, not because they're weak, but because they were taught to believe that acceptance is more valuable than authenticity. We're conditioned from an early age to smooth the edges of who we are, to be agreeable, to avoid conflict, to speak only when spoken to never rock the boat. And in relationships, this pressure becomes even heavier. You think if you just keep her happy, if you always say the right thing, if you never disagree, then maybe, just maybe, she'll love you more. But she doesn't. She might smile, she might stay for a while, but deep down, she feels it too. She senses that something's missing, and that something is you. Women don't fall in love with the man who bends. They fall in love with the man who stands. They don't respect the man who avoids discomfort. They respect the one who faces it head-on with courage and clarity. They're not drawn to the shadow of a man, but to the fire burning at the center of one. And that fire is lit the moment you decide that who you are is enough. Being unapologetically authentic is not about being rude, brash, or dismissive. It's not about dominance or defiance for its own sake. It's about aligning your actions, your words, and your presence with your core values. No matter who's watching, no matter who agrees, it's about being a man of principle, even when it costs you approval, especially when it costs you approval. Because here's the truth. When you dilute your beliefs just to keep the peace, you're not keeping peace, you're building quiet resentment. When you pretend to be someone you're not just to earn affection, you're not being loved, you're being tolerated. And when you constantly adjust yourself to avoid judgment, you're not gaining respect. You're losing the only thing that ever earned it in the first place, your integrity. You must understand, authenticity isn't just attractive, it's rare. In a world that thrives on curated images, highlight reels, and social masks, being real is revolutionary. It takes bravery to speak your truth. It takes strength to disagree without apologizing. It takes honor to say, "This is who I am," and mean it. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one." That means stop crafting the perfect persona, stop chasing what you think will be accepted, and start being the man whose values are etched into every step he takes. And yes, Not everyone will like you. Not every woman will nod in approval. Some may even walk away. But let them. Because the right people, the right woman, won't love you despite your authenticity. She'll love you because of it. She'll see the way you speak with intention, the way you hold your boundaries without rage, the way you navigate conflict without abandoning yourself. And in that strength, she'll find safety. In that depth, she'll find mystery. And in that unapologetic truth, she'll find a man worth following. But none of that matters if you're still hiding, if you're still molding yourself into what you think she wants. That's not strength. That's submission. And no matter how well you hide it, she can feel it. A woman's intuition can sense when a man is performing. She can tell when his smile is masking hesitation, when his silence is filled with swallowed truth. And eventually, the act wears thin. You cannot fake masculinity. You cannot pretend your way into being respected. Real presence cannot be manufactured. It is born from within. It's born in the silence after you say what's hard, but necessary. It's born in the stillness you hold when everyone else needs validation. It's born in the look in your eyes when you say, "This is my truth, and I will not betray it." And here's something most men never realize. Being authentic doesn't make you less desirable. It makes you irresistible, because authenticity carries with it a kind of gravitational pull. It's magnetic, it's grounding. It says to the world, "I know who I am. I've done the work. I've looked into my darkness and didn't flinch. I've faced rejection and chose truth anyway." That is power. That is Stoic masculinity. Not loud, not arrogant, but deep, unwavering, and quietly unshakable. So how do you live this truth? Start small. Speak honestly, even when your voice trembles. Say no when your boundaries are crossed. Stop laughing at jokes you don't find funny just to fit in. Stop agreeing to things that violate your spirit. And stop apologizing for the fire that burns in you. You were not made to fit in. You were made to stand out with grace, with dignity, with quiet strength. Let the world adjust to you for once. Let her adjust to you. If she walks away because of your truth, then she was never meant to stay. But if she stays, and many will, you'll know she stayed for the real you. Not the version you edited to be loved. Being unapologetically authentic is a gift to yourself and to the world. It's the foundation upon which confidence is built, respect is earned, and love, true love, can grow. Because only when you stop pretending can the right people finally find you. And in that raw, unfiltered, powerful version of yourself, you'll finally find something else too. Freedom number 3. Guard your heart with emotional discipline. There comes a moment in every man's life when he realizes that caring too much, too soon, can cost him more than he ever thought possible. You pour your heart into someone. You anticipate her needs. You answer before she even finishes the question. And in return, silence, distance, confusion. It's not that you were wrong to care, but that you made her your center too quickly before you even built your own gravity. In a world where men are told that vulnerability is power, that openness is attractive, few dare to say what's also true. That unbalanced emotional investment early on often leads to heartbreak, manipulation, and loss of self. This is why the Stoics taught not the suppression of emotion, but the mastery of it, because the man who does not govern his emotions will be governed by them. Stoicism is not coldness. It is warmth under control. It is a steady flame, not a wildfire. To detach emotionally is not to stop feeling. It is to stop allowing your feelings to dictate your sense of worth. It is to feel without drowning, to care without collapsing, to connect without becoming dependent. The ancient philosophers knew, you do not control what she feels. You do not control whether she stays or goes, whether she texts back or disappears into silence, but you do control your breath, your mind, your reaction. That is your domain. And within that domain lies your freedom. When you invest emotionally before a foundation has been built, you gamble with your peace. Because when she pulls away, and at some point she will, your world should not collapse. She is not your anchor. Your purpose is, your mission is, and if you've built your life correctly, her distance will not shake your frame. That stillness, that calm in the storm, is what makes you powerful. That is what makes you different. Imagine this. She becomes distant. She pulls back. She grows silent. Most men panic. They chase. They spiral. They lose sleep and send texts that never get replies. But the high-value man leans into silence like it's a prayer. He stays still. He remains focused. He hits the gym. He works, he reads, he lives, not to show her what she's missing, but because he never stopped living for himself. Emotional detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you prioritize your peace over her presence. And when she senses that, when she feels that you haven't been shaken by her absence, it rewires her perception of you. You become less predictable. And in that unpredictability, you become magnetic. Control over your emotions is not a trick. It is a standard. It is a way of life. You stop over-explaining. You stop reacting. You stop chasing highs and crashing with lows. You become grounded, solid, present. You begin to attract not through effort but through essence. Not by what you do, but by who you are. This isn't about playing games. This is about transcending them, because the man who no longer needs to win her back has already won something greater, himself. Emotional detachment in its highest form is clarity. It is the discipline of staying centered when the world tries to throw you off balance. It's the difference between being in love and being lost. And a Stoic is never lost. He may stumble, he may bleed, but he remains. So next time you feel yourself slipping into over-attachment, ask, what am I trying to control that I cannot? What if I turn that energy inward, toward something I could build, shape, strengthen? Your emotions are not your enemy, but they are not your compass either. You are. And if you choose to lead from within, from that place of calm authority and inner alignment, nothing outside you can disturb the peace you've built. That's not just strength, that's mastery. That's what makes you untouchable. Number 4, master the art of silence. There is a moment, silent still, when the world expects you to speak, to react, to justify. And in that moment, when you choose silence instead of reaction, you do not shrink, you expand, you reclaim a power that few men ever touch, the strength of emotional mastery. You see, most men crumble under provocation, a snide comment, a cold glance, a challenge disguised as flirtation. It's all designed to pull you into her world, her game. She wants to know how much control she has over you. She wants to see you flinch, stumble, raise your voice, lose your ground. But when you choose not to react, when you choose stillness instead of noise, you send a louder message than any words could ever speak. Silence is not weakness. It is not submission. Silence, in its highest form, is command. It is the echo of your self-possession, the mark of a man who does not need the world to validate his presence. Seneca once said, "He who is brave is free." And in today's world, the bravest act is often to say nothing, to let the silence carry the weight of your discipline. Think of the last time someone tried to provoke you. Maybe it was her saying something just sharp enough to sting, or questioning. Your choices with a subtle smirk, and you felt it, the rising heat in your chest, the temptation to defend, to explain, to argue. That's the trap, that's the moment most men lose themselves. But a Stoic sees this not as a threat, but as an invitation to grow, to fortify the wall within. To be silent is not to suppress your truth, it is to elevate it. Not every battle is worth your sword. Some victories are won not through force, but through refusal. You do not have to speak to assert yourself. Your presence, your poise, your calm in the storm says it all. A man who is anchored in himself has nothing to prove. Silence disarms manipulation. When she tests you, pokes at your pride, and you don't flinch, something shifts. She begins to wonder. She begins to respect. She begins to feel the gravitational pull of your composure. Women are drawn to men who do not react like boys, who do not dance to the rhythm of emotional games. Instead, they lean into the stillness. And in that stillness, they command attention. The art of silence is also the art of listening, not just to her words, but to yourself. In the quiet, you learn what triggers you. You recognize where your ego wants to react. And then you choose not to feed it. You let the emotion rise and pass like a wave without grabbing onto it. That's when you become a fortress, untouched by petty offenses, unmoved by shallow tests. Silence also breeds curiosity. When you don't respond, she fills in the blanks. She wonders what you're thinking. She senses there's more to you. And in a world of men who speak too much and say too little, your silence becomes magnetic. It's not about playing hard to get. It's about being hard to shake. But this isn't easy. Mastering silence takes training. It takes awareness. It takes the courage to sit in discomfort, to resist the itch to explain yourself, to let go of the need to always be understood. It's the practice of presence over performance, of self-respect over self-defense. There will be moments when silence feels like weakness, when the urge to argue feels overwhelming. But remember this, reaction gives her control. Stillness keeps it with you. And true power lies not in dominating others, but in mastering yourself. You are not here to be easily read. You are not here to dance for validation. You are here to build, to lead, to evolve. And the man who can look chaos in the eye and stay calm is the man who wins without ever needing to fight. So the next time she pushes, pauses, and waits for your response, give her the gift of silence. Let it speak for your strength. Let it echo your discipline. Let it become your signature. You don't need to raise your voice to raise your value. You just need to master the art of silence. Number 5. Rule your life by setting boundaries. There comes a moment in every man's life where he must choose, be liked or be respected. It sounds simple, but for those raised to please, to avoid conflict, to keep the peace at all costs, it's a war fought within. You see, without boundaries, you're not being kind, you're being forgotten. Without boundaries, you're not being strong, you're being silent when you should speak. Without boundaries, you are not a man, you are a shadow of what you could be. The world won't hand you respect just because your heart is in the right place. And women, They won't either. They test you, not out of cruelty, but out of instinct. They lean against your lines, subtly, persistently, asking with their actions, "Is there anything sacred in this man's world?" And when there isn't, when you smile through the disrespect, when you laugh off the lateness, when you forgive without standards, they don't feel closer to you. They drift. Because respect, not comfort, is what builds attraction, and boundaries, not compliance, are what earn respect. So many men fear setting boundaries because they think it means controlling others. But that's not the Stoic way. Epictetus didn't demand the world conform to him. He mastered the only thing he could, himself. And that's where real boundaries begin. Not in controlling her behavior, but in honoring your own standards. Not in telling others what to do, but in having the quiet courage to say, "This is what I will and will not allow in my life." Picture this. She's late for the third time. No explanation, no apology. You smile faintly, not out of spite, but clarity, and say, "I value my time. If you can't, that's okay, but we may not be a good match." No anger, no accusation, just sovereignty. That moment will do more to raise her respect for you than 1,000 sweet words ever could. Because suddenly, she's not in control of the game anymore. You are. Not by dominating her, but by refusing to betray yourself. There's a reason kings have boundaries. It's not because they're cruel. It's because they understand the weight of what they protect. Your time, your peace, your energy, those are sacred. And every yes you give without alignment chips away at your throne. Every time you let disrespect slide, you lose a piece of your kingdom. You think you're avoiding conflict. But really, you're creating a deeper one with yourself. When you live without boundaries, you teach people how to treat you. You tell them, "Walk over me and I'll still stay. Push me and I'll fold." And it's not just women who listen. Friends, co-workers, family, they all hear the message loud and clear. But when you start drawing lines, not out of anger, but out of integrity, you begin to shift the narrative. You become the man whose presence means something, because it has requirements, it has values, it has weight. A Stoic man doesn't yell to be heard. He doesn't threaten to gain control. He simply decides what aligns with his principles and what does not, and he acts accordingly. Marcus Aurelius didn't wage war on everything that displeased him. He simply lived in accordance with virtue. And that virtue became his compass, even when others tried to bend his will. You must do the same. Your boundaries are not fences to keep others out. They are foundations to keep you standing. But let's not lie to ourselves. Setting boundaries is hard. It means risking rejection. It means letting go of people who once meant something. It means accepting that not everyone will applaud your strength. Some will call it selfish, some will call it arrogant. But the truth, it's neither. It's sacred. Because when you stop apologizing for expecting more, for being clear, for living with standards, you start stepping into the power that's been sleeping inside you all along. And what happens when you do? You stop begging for crumbs of affection. You stop over-explaining your worth. You stop shrinking to fit into spaces that were never meant to hold you. You start walking taller, speaking slower, living deeper. And women, they notice. Not because you're trying to impress them, but because your presence carries the weight of a man who knows who he is. This is not about ultimatums. It's about alignment. When something violates your peace, you don't need to scream. You just need to choose. You don't need to force her to change. You just need to decide who you are willing to be around. You don't need to chase closure or cling to explanations. You just need to trust that your self-respect is enough reason to walk away. Seneca once wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. And nothing wastes a man's life more than tolerating what does not align with his spirit." Every time you say yes to what violates your peace, you say no to who you could become. But when you start honoring your boundaries, you become unstoppable, not because others fear you, but because you no longer fear losing them. So I ask you, where are your lines? Not the ones you draw in anger, but the ones you draw in truth. What are your non-negotiables? What values do you protect with silence, with action, with the graceful power of a man who has nothing to prove? Set them, hold them, and if someone walks away because of them, let them. Because the only people who will stay are the ones who truly see your worth. And you, my friend, were never meant to be a doormat. You were born to be a king. Number 6, reclaim self-worth by ending the chase for validation. There's a quiet erosion that happens to many men, not in one grand collapse, but in subtle daily compromises. It begins with a question you didn't need to ask, a message you shouldn't have sent, an apology you made, not because you were wrong, but because you were afraid of losing her affection. You might not even notice it at first, how you start measuring your worth through her eyes, how her response time becomes a gauge for your self-esteem, how silence from her makes you feel small. It's not always loud, it's not always dramatic, but it is always dangerous. This is the trap of seeking validation, and it's one of the most common ways men quietly surrender their power. You see, every time you double text, over-explain yourself, or wait by the phone hoping she'll notice your effort, you're handing over your center of gravity. You're saying, without saying, "Please tell me I'm enough." But here's the problem. The moment you outsource your sense of worth, you make yourself dependent. And nothing repels respect faster than neediness disguised as love. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The approval of others is a fickle thing." And he was right. Chasing validation is like drinking salt water. It gives the illusion of satisfaction, but the more you consume, the thirstier you become. And in that endless thirst, you forget the most important thing, that your value is not up for negotiation, that you were never meant to be weighed on the scale of someone else's emotions. The truth is, women don't respect men who orbit their moods. They respect men who stand rooted in their own truth, men who don't flinch when attention is withdrawn, who don't panic when affection cools, who don't beg to be seen, because there's nothing more magnetic than a man who already sees himself clearly. When you make her the sun of your emotional solar system, everything else in your life begins to revolve around her. Your purpose, your peace, your priorities, they shrink. And ironically, the more space you give her, the less space you occupy in her mind. Because humans are wired to value what feels earned, not what's given without limit. The more you seek her validation, the less she feels the need to give it. But this doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you start caring wisely. You begin by pulling your energy back into yourself. You remember who you were before you needed someone else to reflect your worth. You stop performing for affection and start living in alignment with your principles. You begin building a life that commands respect, not just admiration. Imagine this instead. You're focused on your mission. Your mornings begin with discipline, not desperation. You move with purpose. You pursue your goals not to impress, but because they're part of who you are. And when you show up in a relationship from that place, anchored, steady, unattached to praise, you become a mirror for what she secretly longs for. Certainty. Not the kind that controls, but the kind that cannot be shaken. This is what Stoicism teaches us. Not to be indifferent, but to be sovereign, to root our sense of identity in what we control, our thoughts, our actions, our choices. When a Stoic gives love, he gives it freely, not to receive, but because it is who he is. When a Stoic speaks truth, he does so with calm clarity, not to be applauded, but because integrity demands it. And when a Stoic walks away, he does not do so in anger, but with grace, because his peace is worth more than approval. Let's get practical. The next time you feel the urge to chase her attention, pause. Ask yourself, am I acting from strength or from fear? If the answer is fear of being forgotten, misunderstood, unloved, then that action will only reinforce your insecurity. Instead, channel that energy back into yourself. Go train, go create, go read, go build something that makes you proud to be alive, regardless of who's watching. Because here's the secret. When you stop seeking validation, you become validation. You radiate a quiet confidence that speaks louder than words. You become the man who doesn't need to be chosen because he already chose himself. Women feel this. The way you carry yourself, the way you say less, but mean more, the way you don't react to their tests, but respond from principle. They sense that you won't be swayed by charm or controlled by silence. And that's when something profound happens. They begin to chase your energy, not because you demanded it, but because you withdrew the need for it. And not just women. The world responds differently to a man who no longer asks for permission to exist. The man who stops needing validation becomes a magnet for real respect. Not the kind bought with favors or attention, but the kind born of alignment and authenticity. His relationships improve because he no longer smothers them with expectations. His presence deepens because it's no longer diluted by insecurity. He becomes rare. And in a world drowning in desperation, rarity is power. So stop waiting for someone else to hand you the mirror. You are not here to be liked. You are here to live truthfully. You are not here to be validated. You are here to validate your own life with your courage, your actions, your refusal to abandon yourself in pursuit of someone else's smile. And if you're wondering where to begin, start here. Get silent, get clear, get to work on the man you were always meant to become. Because once you know your worth, you stop asking people to tell you what you're worth. You simply live it. Boldly, quietly, unapologetically, stoically. Number 7, build an irresistible life. There comes a moment, quiet and unmistakable, when a man stops chasing and starts creating. When he no longer begs for attention, affection, or approval, because he's too absorbed in becoming, in building, in becoming the kind of man who is not only admired but deeply respected, not because he asks to be, but because his life speaks louder than any words ever could. That moment is your turning point. Everything we've talked about, breaking, free from ego, embracing authenticity, detaching emotionally, mastering silence, setting boundaries, and releasing the hunger for validation, has led you here. This is the crescendo. This is where your life stops orbiting others and starts radiating from your center. Because the truth is simple, the most attractive man in any room isn't always the best looking. He's not the richest. He's not the loudest. He's the one with a fire in his eyes, a calm in his heart, and a purpose in his soul. A man who is becoming every day, in silence, in strength, in self-respect. A man who builds an irresistible life, not to impress a woman, but because he refuses to live as anything less than who he was meant to be. And that man can't be ignored. Ask yourself, when was the last time you did something just for you? Not to win approval, not to prove something, not to fill a silence left by someone who left too soon, but because it was aligned with the man you know you're becoming. Maybe it was hitting the gym when no one was watching, or reading a book that woke up something inside you, or walking away from someone who didn't respect your boundaries, not out of anger, but out of alignment. That is how it starts. That is how you build. An irresistible life isn't built in a day. It's forged in repetition. It's built in sweat, in sacrifice, in early mornings and quiet nights. It's born in choosing discipline over distraction, purpose over pleasure, solitude over shallow connection. It's choosing to show up for your vision even when the world gives you every excuse to give up. This life isn't about becoming what women want. It's about becoming who you promised yourself you'd be. And ironically, when you do that, when you stop performing and start evolving, you become magnetic, not because you're trying to pull anyone in, but because you've become a gravity all your own. You become the man who walks into a room and doesn't need to say much because his presence says everything. Marcus Aurelius didn't write Meditations to impress anyone. He wrote it because he was a man refining his soul. Epictetus didn't craft his philosophy to gain followers. He lived it because he knew a man must be ruled by reason, not by the moods of others. And you don't build this life because the world demands it. You build it because you refuse to waste your potential on comfort, distraction, or emotional dependency. So what does it look like practically? It looks like sweating through your shirt in the gym while others sleep in. It looks like choosing books over endless scrolling. It looks like learning a skill instead of chasing validation. It's booking a solo trip and discovering who you are when no one else is around to reflect it. It's structuring your days around growth, not reaction. It's knowing that a relationship might add to your life, but it will never define your life. And when she sees this version of you, not the man who waits for a reply, but the man who is too focused on his mission to flinch, something shifts. Her ego no longer holds power because your vision is too vast to be tethered to her approval. You become not the man who wants her, but the man she wants to be close to, because your life is alive. It's full. It's electric with purpose. That is the man who cannot be replaced. So take this as your call, not to chase, but to create, not to wait, but to build. Don't wait for life to hand you a reason to rise. Give yourself one. Become the man whose days are full, not of noise, but of meaning. Build routines that ground you. Set goals that stretch you. Surround yourself with energy that uplifts you, challenges you, pushes you to level up. Let your habits reflect your standards. Let your silence reflect your certainty. Let your actions reflect your vision. You don't need 1,000 followers, a perfect relationship, or a round of applause. You need one thing: the clarity to see who you want to become, and the courage to move toward him every single day, inch by inch. Choice by choice, breath by breath, because when you do that, the rest follows. She will notice, the world will shift, opportunities will arise, not because you begged for them, but because you became the man they were meant to find. So let this be the end of chasing and the beginning of becoming. Don't just break her ego. Rise so high it becomes irrelevant. Build a life so radiant, so complete, that people don't admire you because you're flashy. They admire you because you're free, grounded, focused, stoic. A man who knows where he's going. And when you become that man, you no longer worry about who stays or who leaves. You no longer question your worth. You no longer chase closure, attention, or reassurance, because your life in itself becomes the loudest statement of all, and it whispers to the world, I do not need permission to become unstoppable. Final reflection. Now take a moment, breathe, not just with your lungs, but with your awareness. Let everything you've heard settle into the quiet corners of your mind, because this isn't just information. It's a mirror, a wake-up call, a reminder of the man you were always meant to become. You see, this journey was never about breaking her ego. It was about breaking free from yours, from the small self that clings to approval, from the silent desperation to be chosen, from the restless need to prove your worth through someone else's eyes. Because real power doesn't come from being desired, it comes from being deeply aligned. The man you are today was shaped by every story you once believed about what it means to be good enough. But the man you're becoming, the man this world needs, is not waiting to be picked. He is choosing himself again and again through the quiet discipline of daily choices. And that's the truth most men miss. It's not one grand moment that changes you. It's 100 small moments of self-respect, of restraint, of returning to your core. Every time you say no to distraction, no to emotional chaos, no to being anyone less than your full self, you step closer to a life of depth and power. Every boundary you set, every moment of silence you hold, every time you detach, realign, and rise, you become harder to manipulate, easier to respect, and impossible to replace. So let this be the moment you draw the line, not between you and her, but between you and the man you refuse to be any longer. Let this be the beginning of a new standard, not driven by bitterness, but by clarity, by peace, by unshakable inner strength. Remember, you are not here to impress women. You are here to impress your future self, the one who wakes up proud of the discipline you showed when it was easier to give in, the one who is no longer haunted by rejection because he's already accepted himself, the one who no longer plays games because his life has become the prize. You are not here to chase love. You are here to become so grounded in purpose, so full of presence, so fiercely aligned with your values, that love, respect, and admiration naturally gravitate toward you. Not because you asked, but because you became undeniable. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." And that's what this is truly about, reclaiming the throne within, mastering your emotions, elevating your choices, and living as if the man you dream of becoming is already watching. So ask yourself now, quietly, honestly, without excuse, is what I'm doing today aligned with the man I want to be tomorrow? Because every word you speak, every habit you nurture, every boundary you uphold brings you closer or pulls you further. This is your invitation, not just to understand Stoicism, but to embody it, to walk with grace, to lead with presence, to let go of seeking and start creating. Because when you stop chasing approval, you begin attracting respect. When you stop proving yourself, you start becoming yourself. And when you finally stop trying to be everything for someone else, you become everything you were born to be. Stay grounded, stay noble, stay powerful in silence. Your greatest strength is already within you. Now rise and live it.